On my 30th birthday, my father demanded I surrender my $2 million 0 cents inheritance to save his pampered stepdaughter's debts, threatening to brand me mentally unfit when I refused, until I unveiled one encrypted drive that unraveled their web of lies. The boardroom smelled of leather and desperation, the kind that clings to polished mahogany and lies whispered under fluorescent lights. My father's voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Sign over the $2 million 0 cents, Claire, or we'll bury you." I stood frozen, my heart hammering, staring into the eyes of a man I barely recognized anymore. Richard Donovan, my own father, leaned across the table, his face a mask of calculated concern, while my stepsister Sophia sat beside him, her emerald necklace glinting like a warning. Vanessa, my stepmother, tapped her manicured nails on a contract that would strip me of my mother's legacy. A $2 million 0 cents trust fund meant to secure my future. They didn't just want my money, they wanted my silence, my compliance, my erasure. I was Claire Donovan, a 30-year-old cybersecurity whistleblower who'd already lost everything once by telling the truth. Now, my family was betting I'd cave again. They were wrong. I clutched the encrypted drive in my pocket, my insurance policy, and met their gazes with a fire they didn't expect. "No," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my veins. The room went still, and I knew this was only the beginning. "I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it started, to the Seattle rain and the life I thought I'd left behind. Growing up, I was my mother's shadow. Abigail Donovan was a legend in tech, a woman who coded her way from a cramped Capitol Hill apartment to a cybersecurity empire. She had a heart condition, sure, but it never slowed her down. "Always have a backup plan, Claire," she'd say, her fingers flying over a keyboard as she taught me to code at 8. We'd spend weekends hiking Mount Rainier, her laughter echoing through the pines, or debugging apps in her home office, surrounded by monitors and empty coffee mugs. My dad, Richard, was the charming real estate developer, always chasing the next big deal. He wasn't a tech guy, but he adored Mom's brilliance and cheered my straight-A report cards. We were a unit, Mom, Dad, and me, until the world cracked open when I was 18. Mom's heart gave out. It wasn't supposed to happen. She'd survived a scare when I was 12, but this time the doctors couldn't save her. I found her collapsed in her office, her laptop still glowing with lines of code. I was too late to say goodbye, but she'd left me something better, a $2 million 0 cents trust fund locked until I turned 30, with a note in her precise handwriting. "Claire, this is your safety net. Use it to build your life, not someone else's." "I'm so proud of you." The trust was untouchable, even by Dad, a fortress she'd built to protect me. I clung to that note like a lifeline, reading it until the paper frayed, a reminder of her love in a world that felt suddenly empty. Dad unherborized 6 months later. Vanessa Mitchell stormed into our lives like a hurricane, a PR executive with a shark smile and a knack for control. Her daughter Sophia was my age, a bleach-blonde influencer with a talent for getting what she wanted. Dad changed overnight. The man who'd taught me to ride a bike became a stranger, showering Sophia with cars, condos, and attention while I faded into the background. "Sophia's sensitive, Claire," he'd say, brushing off my MIT acceptance letter. "You're strong, like your mom." I swallowed the hurt and threw myself into school, earning a computer science degree and a job at a Fortune 500 tech firm. By 28, I uncovered a data breach cover-up that could have ruined millions of users. Blowing the whistle cost me my job, but it made me a name in cybersecurity. I started consulting, rebuilding my life one contract at a time, planning to use the trust to launch a nonprofit teaching kids to code. Sophia, meanwhile, built an Instagram empire on Dad's dime, jet-setted to Ibiza and posting about her perfect life. 2 months before my 30th birthday, a letter from the trust manager arrived, confirming the $2 million 0 cents was mine. I was dreaming of a modest cabin in the Cascades when Dad called about a birthday celebration at their Bellevue mansion. I should have known better. The place was a monument to excess. Marble floors, a chandelier that could have funded a startup, and Sophia in a red dress that screamed money. Vanessa air-kissed me, her $5,000 0 cents dress brushing my Thrift Street blazer. Ethan, Sophia's fiancé, a gym bro with a shady tech startup, gave me a smirk. "The famous whistleblower," he said, like it was an insult. The dinner table was set for 5, with a store-bought cake and a stack of unopened gifts. I sensed a trap. Over dessert, Dad dropped the bomb. "Sophia's in trouble, Claire. She owes $2 million 0 cents to loan sharks from online gambling. We need your inheritance to save her." His eyes were cold, Vanessa's smile tight, and Sophia's tears looked rehearsed. I spotted her new emerald necklace, posted on Instagram as a gift from Daddy. "Why not sell that?" I asked. Vanessa snapped. "Family heirlooms." I pointed out the post was from last week. The room tensed. Dad slid a contract across the table. "Transfer the $2 million 0 cents as a loan." Sophia sobbed. "I'll pay you back." I wasn't buying it. "No," I said, and walked out, their shouts echoing behind me. The next morning, my bank account was drained of $10,000. 0 cents. My consulting site was hacked, plastered with lies calling me a fraud. I traced the attack to a burner IP linked to Ethan's company. Then a major client dropped me, citing an anonymous tip about my instability. I was shaken but not broken. Dad showed up at my apartment, a grim figure in the Seattle drizzle. "Sign the papers or we'll file for guardianship. You're not fit to manage that money." He handed me a forged psychiatric report claiming I had paranoid delusions, twisting Mom's old anxiety diagnosis. I felt the ground shift beneath me. That night, a black SUV tailed me through the city, ramming my car near a bridge. I swerved through traffic, heart pounding, and found my GPS tampered with. Someone was tracking me. Days later, my apartment was ransacked. My laptop, holding sensitive client data, was gone, replaced by a note, "Sign or lose everything." Security footage caught a glimpse of Ethan's distinctive watch. Then a viral blog post tied to Vanessa's PR firm accused me of stealing data during my whistleblower days. My reputation teetered as I fought to clear my name. I turned to Rachel Cohen, Mom's lawyer, who revealed Dad's past attempt to seize Grandma's estate. "He's drowning in $5 million 0 cents of debt," she said. "Sophia's no gambler. She's spent $200,000 0 cents on luxury in a year." At a tech conference, I sipped a coffee that tasted bitter. Hours later, I collapsed, hospitalized for suspected poisoning. A barista saw Ethan near the coffee station. Then, walking to my car one night, 2 men grabbed me, demanding I sign. I fought them off, bruised but alive, tracing their car to Vanessa's PR contact. The final straw was Dad's guardianship petition, freezing my trust. I hired Mark Vega, a private investigator who uncovered Sophia's real spending: $80,000, 0 cents on bags, $100,000, 0 cents on trips, no gambling. Emails between Dad and Vanessa plotted to lock my assets. Ethan, now Sophia's ex, confessed the gambling story was a lie. A real psychiatric evaluation proved my stability. I compiled an encrypted drive of evidence: forged reports, financial records, emails, Ethan's testimony, and Mom's letter. The showdown was at Aunt Lily's Portland home. Dad presented his lies, but I unveiled the truth. Fake reports, Dad's debts, Sophia's spending, their emails. I read Mom's letter. "This money is Claire's alone." Uncle Tom exploded, exposing Dad's past scams. I gave Dad 24 hours to withdraw the petition or face fraud charges. He did, silently. I cut them off, launched my nonprofit, bought my cabin, and found peace with Aunt Lily and Uncle Tom. Dad and Vanessa divorced. Sophia's empire crumbled. Mom's legacy? Courage carried me through. The rain battered my Seattle apartment window, a relentless drumbeat that matched the pulse pounding in my temples. It was 3 days after the disastrous birthday dinner, and I was still reeling from my father's ultimatum: sign over my $2 million 0-cents inheritance to Sophia or face the consequences. I'd said no, walked out, and thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Lily, my mother's sister, who'd always been my rock after Mom died. "Claire, we need to talk. I'm worried about you." My stomach dropped. Vanessa's lies had reached her, twisting my refusal to fund Sophia's fake gambling debts into proof of my instability. I stared at the text, feeling the walls of my world closing in. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was a war for my freedom, my reputation, and my mother's legacy. I gripped the encrypted drive in my pocket, my lifeline of evidence, and swore I'd fight back. But the storm was coming faster than I'd expected, and it was about to get deadly. The next morning, I woke to an email from my bank. $10,000, 0 cents had been drained from my account overnight. My consulting website was down, replaced by a vicious homepage accusing me of fraud. I traced the hack to a burner IP tied to Ethan, Sophia's shady fiancé, whose tech startup was little more than a front for cyber scams. My biggest client called an hour later, canceling our contract. "We heard you're unstable, Claire," they said, citing an anonymous tip. Vanessa's PR machine was in overdrive, and I was losing ground fast. I needed help, and I needed it now. I drove through the drizzle to Rachel Cohen's office, my mother's lawyer and the one person I trusted to navigate this mess. Rachel's office was a fortress of oak and steel, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. "Your father's playing dirty," she said, her eyes scanning the forged psychiatric report he'd waved at me. "He's claiming you're paranoid, just like Abigail's anxiety during her heart scare. It's a lie, but it's clever." She leaned forward, her voice low. "Claire, he tried this before, with your grandmother's estate. He backed down when she fought, but you're a bigger prize." My chest tightened. "How big?" Rachel slid a file across her desk. "Richard's real estate empire is $5 million, 0 cents in debt, 3 mortgages, 12 maxed out credit cards. And Sophia's spent $80,000, 0 cents on designer bags, and $100,000, 0 cents on private jet trips. No gambling debts, pure fiction." I felt sick, but the pieces were falling into place. Sophia's emerald necklace, her Maldives vacations, the mansion's gold-plated excess. It was all a house of cards, and my inheritance was their last hope to keep it standing. "What's their next move?" I asked. Rachel's face darkened. "They'll file for guardianship to freeze your trust. If they can paint you as unstable, they'll control the money until a court rules. That could take months." I clutched Mom's letter, her words echoing, "This is your safety net, Claire." I wasn't just fighting for money. I was fighting for her. That night, danger found me. I was driving home from Rachel's office, the Seattle skyline fading in my rear view, when a black SUV roared up behind me. Its headlights blinded me as it swerved dangerously close, clipping my bumper. My heart raced as I floored the gas, weaving through traffic on a rain-slicked bridge. The SUV rammed me again, nearly sending me over the edge into the dark waters below. I gripped the wheel, my self-defense training kicking in, and took a sharp turn into a busy intersection, losing them in the chaos. Back at my apartment, I checked my car's GPS. It had been tampered with, broadcasting my location. Someone, likely Ethan, was tracking me. I barely slept, my mind racing with questions. Who was driving that SUV? Was it a hired thug or someone closer? The next day, my apartment was ransacked. My laptop, packed with sensitive client data, was gone, replaced by a note in block letters. Security footage showed a masked figure, but the glint of Ethan's distinctive Rolex was unmistakable. I recovered the laptop from a pawn shop, but the message was clear. They'd stop at nothing. Pressure mounted from all sides. Vanessa's lies had reached Aunt Lily, who called me in tears. "Claire, Vanessa says you're pushing the family away. Is it true you refused to help Sophia?" I spent an hour convincing Lily, sharing snippets of Rachel's findings, but the doubt in her voice lingered. Losing Lily, my last tie to Mom's family, felt like a knife to the chest. Then a viral blog post hit, accusing me of stealing data during my whistleblower days. It was traced to Vanessa's PR firm, a calculated smear to tank my consulting business. I hired a crisis manager, burning through savings to fight the lies, but the tech community was buzzing with suspicion. Danger struck again at a cybersecurity conference in San Francisco. I was speaking on a panel, my reputation already bruised, when I sipped a coffee handed to me by a staffer. It tasted bitter, metallic. Hours later, I collapsed backstage, my vision blurring as paramedics rushed me to the hospital. Tests suggested possible poisoning, traces of a sedative in my system, but they couldn't prove intent. A barista later told me she'd seen Ethan lingering near the coffee station. His smirk burned into my memory. I survived, but public spaces felt like minefields now. Back in Seattle, the guardianship petition landed like a bomb. Richard filed it, citing my erratic behavior as a whistleblower and the forged psychiatric report. The court froze my trust, delaying my nonprofit and threatening my financial stability. Legal fees piled up, and I was running on fumes. Vanessa's smear campaign escalated. A tabloid ran a front-page story calling me a tech traitor, hiding millions. My inbox filled with hate mail, and clients hesitated to sign new contracts. I felt like I was drowning, but Mom's voice kept me afloat. Build your life, not someone else's. I hired Mark Vega, a private investigator with a knack for digging up dirt. Mark's office was a cluttered cave of files and coffee stains, but his mind was razor sharp. "Your father's desperate," he said, spreading out financial records. "He's leveraged everything. $5 million, 0 cents in debt, 3 mortgages, 12 credit cards maxed out. Sophia's no gambler. She spent $80,000, 0 cents on Chanel, $100,000, 0 cents on trips, $50,000, 0 cents on cosmetic surgery." He slid over emails between Richard and Vanessa, dated days before my birthday. "Once we get Claire's money, we clear the debts," Richard wrote. Vanessa replied, "If she fights, the guardianship will freeze her out. She'll cave." My blood ran cold. This wasn't a family dispute. It was a heist. The danger peaked one rainy night as I left a client meeting. 2 men grabbed me in a parking garage, their grip bruising as they shoved a pen and contract in my face. "Sign, or you're done," one growled. My self-defense training kicked in. I elbowed one in the gut, kneed the other, and sprinted to my car. My hands shook as I drove away, but I caught their license plate. Mark traced it to a car rented by a contact at Vanessa's PR firm. The realization hit me. They weren't just after my money. They were willing to hurt me to get it. Mark's investigation uncovered more. Richard had targeted 2 of Mom's cousins years ago, convincing one to hand over $150,000, 0 cents he never repaid. The other, Cousin Ellen, fought and won, but the battle cost her emotionally. "Your dad's a predator," Mark said bluntly. "You're his biggest mark yet." Then came a break. Ethan, now Sophia's ex, contacted me. Their breakup was messy, and he was ready to spill. The gambling story was a lie, he admitted over coffee, his eyes darting nervously. "Sophia coached me to play along at your birthday dinner. There were no loan sharks, just her credit card bills. He handed me text messages where Sophia laughed about fooling the easy mark. I notarized his statement, adding it to my growing arsenal. I underwent a psychiatric evaluation with Dr. Emily Park, a respected expert Rachel recommended. Her report was clear. Claire Donovan shows no signs of mental instability. Her actions reflect rational, protective decision-making under extreme pressure. The contrast between Dr. Park's assessment and the forged report was stark. My accordion file of evidence was now a fortress. Financial records proving Richard's desperation, Sophia's spending, the forged report, incriminating emails, Ethan's testimony, and Mom's letter demanding the trust stay mine. The showdown was set at Aunt Lily's Portland home, a so-called family intervention. Richard had invited Uncle Tom, Cousin Ellen, and her husband, framing it as a plea to save me. I arrived with Rachel, my briefcase heavy with evidence. Lily's living room felt like a courtroom, with Richard, Vanessa, and Sophia on one side, their faces smug. Richard opened with a rehearsed speech, waving the forged report. Claire's paranoid, isolating herself, refusing to help family. We're seeking guardianship to protect her. I took a deep breath, my voice steady. Everything in that report is a lie. I handed out copies of Dr. Park's evaluation and the affidavit from the retired doctor whose signature was forged. Richard's face paled. "This is an analysis of your finances," I continued, distributing Mark's report. $5 million, 0 cents in debt, 3 mortgages, 12 credit cards maxed out. Sophia spent $230,000, 0 cents on luxury, no gambling. I passed around her credit card statements, then the emails plotting to freeze my trust. The room went silent as Uncle Tom read them, his jaw tightening. I pulled out Mom's letter, my hands steady despite the weight of the moment. "To whom it may concern," I read aloud, my voice carrying her strength. "This money is for Claire's future alone. No one else has claim to it. If Richard has mismanaged his resources, that is not Claire's burden." Lily's eyes filled with tears. Uncle Tom slammed the emails down. "You tried this with Mom's estate, Richard," he roared. Ellen nodded, her voice cold. "And with me. You're a thief." Sophia's tears were instant, but her mascara didn't run. "A performance." Vanessa stammered, "This is a misunderstanding." I cut her off. "You have 24 hours to withdraw the guardianship petition, or this goes to the district attorney. Fraud, forgery, attempted extortion." Richard's face was ashen, but he said nothing. I walked out, Rachel at my side, feeling lighter than I had in years. The next morning, Richard withdrew the petition, a curt email from his lawyer confirming it. No apology, no remorse, just defeat. I blocked Vanessa's number after her sanctimonious text. We only wanted what's best for the family. Sophia's voicemails were venomous, blaming me for their crumbling empire. I didn't respond. My fight wasn't about revenge. It was about protecting what Mom gave me. I moved fast to secure the trust, setting up a revocable trust with Rachel's help. I bought a cabin in the Cascades, its cedar walls, a sanctuary Mom would have loved. My nonprofit launched, teaching coding to foster kids, a tribute to her belief in empowerment. The rest I invested for stability, not flash. Aunt Lily and Uncle Tom became my chosen family, our Sunday dinners filled with laughter and stories of Mom. Ellen mentored me through the emotional fallout, her own survival a guide. My reputation soared. A TED Talk invite came and I spoke about truth in tech, earning a standing ovation. Richard and Vanessa divorced. Their mansion was foreclosed. Sophia took a retail job, her Instagram silent. Therapy with Dr. Park helped me grieve the father I'd lost, not to death, but to greed. A photo of us coding when I was 10 brought tears, a reminder of who he'd been. Mom's legacy wasn't just the money, it was the courage to stand tall. If you've faced betrayal, know you're not alone. Your strength is your legacy. Share your story and let's lift each other up. What's next? Will Richard try again? Is Vanessa hiding bigger schemes? Only time will tell.